I decided to interview my cousin Casey, who is currently in 3rd grade. As an elementary special education major, I figured that she would be a good person to talk to because she's within those elementary years and also struggles with ADHD in school. My aunt told me prior to the interview that she likes science, but it wasn't her favorite subject, so I was kind of curious to find out why. Casey really likes her teacher, but like I said, she struggles in school, and this was apparent as when I asked if she preferred working individually or in groups. She was definitely more confident when working in groups because she felt that this helped her focus more. Prior to the interview, I explained that there were no right answers, and whatever came to mind when I asked her these questions was good. I told her I wanted honest answers and that her answers will help me better my teaching in the future and will help me work towards helping other students feel more confident and have more fun during science. Right away, I asked Casey, "Do you like science?" She was hesitant and answered not really. As she thought about it a little more, she stated that she liked the experiments that they did in class and had fun with those. But when it came to the writing part about each experiment, she didn't like that. She explained that it was always the same thing. Casey also then told me that they do science every other day, so one day they do social studies and then the next they do science. I found it interesting when she told me that she was given a social studies textbook, but that the students weren't given a science textbook. I found this interesting considering when I was in elementary school, we would read passages from the textbook that enhanced our understandings of the experiment that we would then be doing. Next question I asked Casey was, how do you learn science in class? She told me that she has this journal that is for science and social studies. The first half of the notebook is for social studies and the second half is for science. A lot of times the class glues worksheets in their notebooks and takes notes. In addition, the class does a lot of group work. The students will work together when doing different experiments and when working on different worksheets. Casey told me that this helps her focus more. When she works individually, she tends to lose focus and gets distracted very easily. However, when she is working with other students, she feels that she is pushed to work harder and tends to stay on topic more often. Special education major, I feel like this is important for me to understand because I can then pinpoint those students that maybe work better in groups and have like certain activities within the classroom be individualized, but have other activities where you can either choose to work individually or those who need it and work best in groups are able to have that option to then work in groups. I asked Casey what her favorite thing she's learned in science was so far, and she told me it was a twirly bird experiment. She started laughing and told me that they were to make twirly birds out of paper, and they were trying to see how the weight would affect how the twirly bird fell to the floor. So they had 2 paper clips on one twirly bird and they had 1 paper clip on another twirly bird, and they found that when they dropped them from about shoulder height, that the one with the more paper clips fell down faster. So they were trying to see which twirly bird ultimately like hit the ground faster, and she liked how she was able to kind of cut pieces off and figure out which twirly bird, like how making the twirly bird would best benefit falling to the ground, and she said it was more hands-on. In addition, she liked this ramp experiment, and it was where you were parking a cup. So they were given ramps and they had to figure out how to park their cup, which was like a representation of a car, and they wanted to see how it would best stay and not roll down the ramp, and how it moved differently when it was placed in different positions. And the final experiment was a tops experiment. I couldn't quite understand what exactly she was explaining and what the experiment entailed. However, I found it important that she said that they were working in groups. It seemed that Casey was able to recall experiments that involved more group work and that were more hands-on and required lots of thinking. I asked Casey how science made her feel. She told me that she only likes science sometimes. She said that sometimes it can be boring when you're not doing an experiment, but it can also be fun when you are working in groups and trying to figure something out. In my classroom, I hope to make science fun most of the time. Although you can't do experiments every class, readings and worksheets can still be done in a fun way. So for our lesson in the field, we were asked to work with the chapter regarding energy resources, and Ms. Behan said for a chapter like this, we could put the students in groups and just have them read the pages together. However, we decided that it would be better if we read these pages as a class and then made an advertisement for the different energy resources. So instead of the students just reading the textbook, we created a hands-on activity to go with the reading. So ultimately, I feel like there are numerous ways to include a more interactive approach to these boring topics. Overall, I found this interview to be beneficial. I was able to get a sense of how younger students perceive science, and ultimately I can learn from the way Casey is currently being taught. Knowing how useful group work is, it is important that I incorporate this into my future science lesson and find ways to keep things more hands-on and interactive.